welcome to New Horizons. If you do have a mobile phone, if you'd like to put it on silent, please. Thank you. Right, tonight from the prestigious Dr. Rath Health Foundation, we welcome Paul Anthony Taylor with breakthrough scientific discoveries in natural health. The Rath Foundation's stance on proper education, research, patients' right to choose their treatments, and the exposure of the sinister Codex Alimentarius puts them at odds with the establishment, who prefer the allopathic closed shop approach. Undeterred, Paul continues valuable research into keeping people well via the natural approach. He has also co-authored a book entitled The Nazi Roots of the Brussels EU, sealing his position as a major irritant to power-hungry, corrupt, overpaid bureaucrats and proponents of centralised power. Paul has previously enjoyed great success within the music industry prior to becoming Executive Director of the Rath Foundation, and has worked with many influential musicians. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Paul Anthony Taylor.
Thank you very much, Rob, and good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
The Dr. Rath Health Foundation, I will start with that first. It's a non-profit organisation. Our European head office is based in the Netherlands, in the south of the Netherlands, in the area of Limburg. We also have some smaller offices in some of the European capitals, and we run a research institute in California, in sunny Santa Clara. And in no small part, the things I'll be talking about tonight relate to the work and the discoveries of this research institute. So yeah, the title of my talk, I always feel I'm not very good at doing titles, really, because I always find it very hard to sum up what I'm going to talk about in one sentence. It's the most difficult thing in the world, I find. So I cheated and I did a subtitle as well, and I'll try and explain what it's all about. The breakthrough scientific discoveries and natural health part is the easy part. That relates to the work of Dr. Rath, our founder. He's a German physician and scientist, and the work of our researchers in California. The emerging paradigms part relates to the fact that based upon this research, we think we can chart a course towards what we think the future practice of medicine will look like, and the types of approaches that will become the norm in the world of the future, hopefully the world of the not too distant future. The exposing of hidden histories part relates to several things. It relates to the reasons why you haven't heard about the things I'm going to be talking about tonight before. It relates also to actual history, particularly the history of Europe and this thing we call the EU. Because the EU and the history of Europe very, very much have denied us the truth about how the current practice of medicine, and indeed how the EU itself came to be. So in a way, my talk tonight covers three areas. It covers health, it covers politics, and it covers history. But in all of those areas, I promise you that I'll be telling you things that we have been denied by our so-called rulers, and things that literally have the potential to save millions of lives. So let's go. First of all, a few words about our research institute. As I said, it's based in California, in Santa Clara. It was founded by Dr. Rath over here, and it's headed by Dr. Alexander Niedzwiecki, a Polish scientist. And what they specialise in doing at our institute, they specialise in conducting research using natural micronutrients. That means vitamins, minerals, amino acids and other trace elements, the stuff that we find in our food. And the findings of Dr. Rath and our team have been published in many, many prestigious science and medical journals. In fact, they've had now over 100 what are called peer-reviewed scientific studies published in such journals. And that's a lot. So far as we know, there is no independently funded scientific research institute specialising in this area in the world that have had so many studies published in this area. And based on their work, Dr. Rath's discoveries and the research of our researchers, we believe that the stage is now set for chronic diseases to become a thing of the past. As I've described tonight, this will not just happen by itself. It's not going to just happen, as a natural result of these discoveries being made. It depends in part upon meetings like this tonight, where I share stuff with you, and then you go away and tell others about it. Before I started tonight, I had a walk down the side wall there, and I looked at some of the DVDs and things that you have there tonight. So I realised that you guys are pretty clued up about the fact that we've been misled in this increasingly complicated world of ours. And the fact that if I had one message to convey to you tonight is that we've been misled about health. We've been misled about politics, the way politics is conducted and the way the European Union has been set up. And we've been misled about history. We've been denied the true history of, in particular, the two world wars that were conducted in the 20th century. There are three breakthrough discoveries that Dr. Rath and our researchers have made. They've made a number of key discoveries, but there are three that I think stand out more than any other in pointing to the fact that there are other natural, safe, effective approaches to controlling the biggest diseases of the industrialised world, and indeed the entire world today. The first one is the fact that atherosclerosis, or heart disease as we call it, is actually an early form of what used to be called the sailor's disease, scurvy. Scurvy is clinical vitamin C deficiency, and hundreds of years ago, over 1 million sailors are estimated to have lost their lives as a direct result of the fact that we didn't know at that time that there was a substance in food, vitamin C, an essential substance in food, which, if it wasn't included as a part of the daily diet, resulted in death, and a particularly horrible death at that. The man who conducted the research that proved that some foods prevent scurvy was this man, James Lind, who was a surgeon in the British Royal Navy. And he conducted actually a pretty good scientific experiment on board one of his ships. He took 12 sailors, and he divided them into 6 groups. And each group was given a different treatment for the scurvy. One poor unfortunate couple of guys were given seawater to drink, because some people thought that seawater would cure scurvy, and of course it didn't, they died. Others were given, 2 guys were actually given cider to drink, because there was some evidence that they thought cider might help. And in actual fact, cider did help a little bit, because actually cider contains, or cider coming from apples, contains a little bit of vitamin C. So the guys who got the cider improved a bit, but the 2 guys who actually were cured were the guys who got lots and lots and lots of limes and lemons and lime and lemon juice to eat and drink, and they recovered. So Lind proved something, but it still took a long, long time, 50 years or more, for the British Navy to actually accept that actually limes and lemons, citrus fruits, prevented scurvy. Which actually that tells us something, doesn't it? Because sometimes, even when somebody has a really good idea, and even when he proves beyond all reasonable doubt that he's right and that it works, authorities, governments, can take an awful long time to accept it. Galileo, if you know anything about Galileo, discovering and working out that the Earth was not the centre of the universe. The sun didn't revolve around the Earth, even though evidence, appeared at first to indicate that it did. Galileo said, no, the sun is the centre of our sort of solar system, and we all revolve around that. And the mathematicians at the time took to increasingly bizarre mathematical equations to prove that Galileo was wrong, and he was, named a heretic, which I'm sure you know that story. So just because somebody is widely assumed to be wrong, we know that in actual fact the evidence is what actually counts. The evidence and the proof is what matters. Number 2, Breakthrough discovery number 2 is related to number 1 in that it's that micronutrient deficiency. We're talking about deficiencies of vitamins and minerals and things. This is the primary underlying cause for most cardiovascular conditions today. This includes high blood pressure, heart failure, irregular heartbeat, and also the types of circulatory conditions that occur in diabetes. All of these have at their root micronutrient deficiencies. I'll be explaining more later about how it comes that micronutrient deficiencies are so common today. But for now, just remember this simple fact. Number 3 is always the one that people find quite shocking and surprising. This is the one that people say, well, surely, if this was true, I'd have been told about this before. And it's this, it's that the spread of all cancer cells, and I put the word all in capital letters because that's what our scientists are saying. This is what the results of their published research is indicating. The spread of all cancer cells can be inhibited naturally. It's a pretty big statement. And I wouldn't be saying it were it not for the fact that our scientists in California and Dr. Rath are convinced of this. All of their work points towards this. And I'll be talking a lot more about this as we move on. To understand what I've said so far, to understand why micronutrients play such a key role in preventing and controlling chronic diseases, I have to introduce you to something that our scientists call the foundations of cellular medicine. Cellular medicine is, if you like, the new medicine. And this is the approach that we believe will become, in time, the standard approach to dealing with these conditions. And if you can understand this, it's only a few slides, but if you can understand this, you are a long way forward towards understanding how to deal with the health problems that occur to all of us as we get older and go through life and age. The basic principle of cellular medicine is that diseases originate at the cellular level. You see, right now, at the moment, if we have, a health problem that's serious enough, our doctors send us to the hospital. And we have now a system of medicine that has entire departments built up to the treatment of individual organs. If you have a heart problem, you're sent to the cardiologist. If you have a liver problem, you're sent to the guy in the hepatology department. If it's a neurologically based problem, you're sent to the neurologist, and so on. And this is the sort of medicine that we've been encouraged to believe is the modern scientific approach. This, we are so lucky, we are told, to be living in this age. But whether we stay healthy or whether we fall sick is not decided at the level of the organs. It's decided at the level of the billions of cells that make up our bodies. Healthy cells make healthy organs, make healthy bodies. Sick cells, the cells that have been starved over a period of time long enough to cause problems in those cells, result in problematic organs that make you sick, and sometimes can even cost you your lives. So diseases originate at the cellular level. When we eat food, we're not so much feeding the organs, we're feeding the cells that make up those organs. And at the basic level, the functioning of our cells is something that even a child can understand the basics of. In fact, we've used this with children for that very reason. I've taught this to my children, in fact. My boys are teenagers now. The 4 key components in all of the cells of the body. There's the cell nucleus, which is this sort of purplish blob here. And you can compare the functions of a cell to the functions of a small city. And the nucleus is like the city hall because it contains all of the information, the genetic information in this case, that's necessary for the running of the cell. The cell membrane, which is like the wall of the cell that protects it from the outside environment. This is like the city wall, if you like. The city wall that protects, in the olden times, the city from the invaders and outside pathogens, in the case of the cells outside of it. Then we have the Golgi complex. This is like the city factory because it processes the larger molecules, the fats and the proteins in the cell. And finally we have something particularly important. So these are the mitochondria. And these are like the power stations, the power plants of the cells. Because you see, cellular energy is vital for life. If our cells stop producing cellular energy, we die. In order for life to exist, our cells must keep on producing cellular energy. And this is the point of this. The reason I'm telling you this is that micronutrients are essential biological fuel for our cells. They are in fact the cofactors that enable the fires within our cells to keep burning. A chronic deficiency of micronutrients is the key cause of poor cellular function, and as a result, the key cause of chronic diseases that are afflicting mankind so desperately right now for lack of the right answer, for lack of the right approach in treating them. If you've understood so far these really basic principles, let's take a look now at how they apply to cardiovascular disease, to heart disease. The first thing we have to do, if we're trying to understand heart disease, is to look at the cholesterol issue, because this Goliath of medicine that we've been encouraged to place our trust and indeed our lives in has been telling us for some time now that the cause of heart disease is cholesterol. Cholesterol is like the big bad enemy that if we're not reducing it to its lowest amount in the body, will kill us. But in actual fact, cholesterol, how many of you knew this? Cholesterol is actually an essential substance in the body. If you knew that, good, put your hand, hey. An educated group of people is the best sort of people to talk to with. So yeah, cholesterol is a molecule that's essential for life. In fact, vitamin D, we all know, I guess, that sunshine produces vitamin D in the bodies. But actually, it's the action of sunshine on the cholesterol deposits beneath our skin. Vitamin D is actually produced from cholesterol. So it follows that if you haven't got a sufficient amount of cholesterol in your body, you're not sufficiently able to produce optimal amounts of vitamin D in our bodies. So cholesterol is not the enemy. And therefore, it follows that statin drugs are not the answer to heart disease. And while we're on, I apologise for the gory nature of this picture, but this is what heart bypass surgery actually looks like. This is not the answer to heart disease either. I mean, this is where the surgeon opens up your leg, takes veins out of your lower leg, and stitches them around the blockages in your arteries to resupply blood to your heart. I mean, it's gruesome, gory stuff. And as I always say, you really, really, really do not want this to happen to you. And if anything I say tonight enables one person to avoid this outcome, my time here tonight will have been worth it. The thing is, research now suggests that coronary bypass surgery may cause measurable brain damage in at least half of people who undergo it. So, as I say, we really want to avoid this as an outcome. And if there's another possible way to control cardiovascular disease, we have to consider it.